It appears that Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, who of course is now Vice President Kamala Harris's running mate, but Tim Walz, his very existence alone has completely broken James Comer's brain. Now, I'm sure everybody, of course, knows that James Comer is the Republican chair of the House Oversight Committee. And earlier this week, Comer, actually, it may have been last Friday, but anyway, Comer announced that his committee was launching an investigation into Walz's ties to communist China because, he went to China in 1989, I think it was. It was in the 80s. It was either 88 or 89. But he went to China for a couple weeks as part of a teach abroad program. So James Comer says, obviously, that means this guy is totally in bed with communist China and the House is going to get to the bottom of it. Well, as if that weren't crazy enough, he then, James Comer, went on Jesse Watters' show on Fox News and appeared to have a complete psychotic breakdown and lose his entire grip on reality. Here is what happened. Jesse Watters, of course, playing into this, acting like it's a big deal that he went to China in 1989 to teach children. Watters said this: "When you go to China, they surveil you. If an American goes to China 30 times in the 90s, they have surveillance footage of him. They have surveillance footage probably of his honeymoon night. What kind of compromise is that? They're worried about Donald Trump and a P-tape situation, but that was all made up. This is serious business." That was Jesse Watters, and that's insane enough. Walz, by the way, didn't make 30 trips to China in the 90s. He helped actually arrange study abroad programs for some of his students in China after he had done the teach abroad program in the 80s. And, they've got surveillance everywhere. Yeah, but we're talking like early 1990s surveillance, okay? High definition wasn't even something people could conceive of at the time. You're talking about like 28 pixel resolution videos, if they even exist, dude. Like, you're trying to say that in the year 1989, China was somehow in the year 2024 with their tech. Like, simply not possible. But anyway, in response to Jesse Watters' insane query, James Comer said this: "It's very possible that China would be grooming an up-and-coming rising star in the political process to try to have a foothold in our government. I mean, they've done this in the military. We've caught them with spy rings in our university. This is how China operates. They think long-term. And again, and I can't say this enough, when you look at Hunter Biden's ties with communist China, it was for money. It looks like Walz's ties may be for ideology, and this is something that we should be concerned about, and we're trying to gather as much information as we can, as quick as we can, to present to the American people." Okay, so you're abusing your power as a sitting lawmaker to interfere with a political election. Like, I am so glad you admitted that. I am so glad you admitted that, because that is something you could be prosecuted for if our Department of Justice had a spine. Maybe they will. Maybe after this election, if things go the Democrats' way, maybe at that point it's time to launch an investigation into James Comer, his abuses of power, his election interference, refer it to the GOP, and prosecute this SOB. That's what should happen here. Because James Comer just admitted on Fox News, from what I just read to you, that he is intentionally engaging in political interference by abusing his power. Because think about the claims that he made here, right? China thinks long term. And again, Walz's trip took place in 1989. So all the way back in 1989, 35 years ago, the Chinese government, which, by the way, was totally different leadership back then. However, China had the foresight in the year 1989 to see this random teacher from Minnesota. Right? The guy was not seeking political office at the time at all. It was years and years and years away before he ever sought a political office. Okay? So let's be straight about that. But anyway, this teacher from a Minnesota high school goes to China in 1989. And the Chinese government's so smart. They see this teacher there and they think, you know what? You know what's going to happen, China said, obviously, according to James Comer? This guy is going to start running for political office in about 10, 15 years. Eventually, he's going to become the governor of Minnesota. Really quiet state, right? Nobody really pays too much attention to it unless you're from there. And then, what's going to happen, China thought in 1989? The Democrats are going to have a guy, Joe Biden. Yeah, he's in office right now. He'll eventually be president, but he is going to go through a period of severe cognitive decline that will be exposed during a presidential debate in June. And at that point, the Democrats will then replace Biden on the ballot. Again, China thought in 1989, according to James Comer. And then China realized once they replace Biden on the ballot with whoever it is going to be, we don't know who it's going to be, that person, that mystery person, will then pick this high school teacher from Minnesota that we have just identified to be her running mate or his running mate. Again, we don't know. And then we got him, folks. Our long game paid off. China has a foothold in America. Everything I just told you, of course, was completely made up. However, in order for what James Comer is alleging to be true, everything I just explained to you would have had to have happened. And you heard how crazy it sounded when I said it. And here we have a sitting lawmaker who has clearly lost all of his marbles because Tim Walz has driven James Comer insane. This is the kind of claim that if you had made this 20 years ago, that would have been the death of your political career. In fact, by the time you got off TV doing this segment, the men in the white coats would have been waiting for you saying, "Wow, bud, those were some big feelings you had there. Tell you what, we're going to put you in this nice little jacket where it just gives you a big old hug, and we're going to take you in and we're going to run some tests and find out what the hell is wrong with you." Because that's not normal. But 20 years ago is 20 years ago. Today in American politics, that's the kind of talk that gets you into Republican leadership. These people, I throw the word insane around so much, I feel like it's almost lost all meaning, but I don't know another word strong enough to describe how absolutely batshit crazy these Republicans are. Normal people don't think this way. Normal people do not concoct these 35-year-long conspiracy theories in their heads and then spout them on national television. But James Comer did. James Comer needs to be taken in for a 72-hour involuntary psychiatric hold. That's what I think when I hear this statement that he made. Because nothing he is saying has any basis in reality. Nothing he is saying is even physically possible. These people are insane. And I think it's time that the media starts saying that so that it can drill it into the public's head that what we're seeing from the Republican Party goes leaps and bounds beyond being weird and is now in the holy category of cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. That is what James Comer is. America's Lawyer has launched its own YouTube channel. Now, this channel, of course, is still in its early phases of development, but you can help grow it by subscribing. Just go to youtube.com/TheAmericasLawyer, and you'll get all of the great content from Mike Papantonio and myself that we produce every single week.